Right, welcome back. And it's a Thursday, so I'm 18 minutes past the top of the hour. Karibu sana. And this particular day, giving you tips of, bettering your relationship. Ama kama uko kama sisi wenye hatuna, just giving tips on how to actually look for one. And this morning, discussing matters to marry or not, and the whole benefits that lie within. And I'm privileged. Nikitambo Bebe had a baby girl here to discuss these matters with me. Karibu sana.
Thank you for having me here, Stanley.
Yes.
Asante sana.
Leo ni kama ulipata memo yangu ya blue.
Ooh, who knows? We may be getting married because we have a reverend on set.
Oh, yes. Ni pete tu tutafute. Actually, speaking of which, Reverend Canon Dr. Rosemary Mbogo, a counselor and also an author resolving marital conflicts. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much. I am grateful to be here.
And even retiring from an early retirement from the SK as of last year, and venturing into matters counseling, and also for the whole passion of even men and even the boy child. Tell us about that. In even the new book, Resolving Marital Conflicts.
Actually, my new book is repositioning the male man for healing of families, society, and nations, that we are going to be launching on Saturday, 3rd, at All Saints Cathedral. Resolving Marital Conflict is my 4th book. And my first book is Woman, a Vessel of Honor and Great Potential, that speaks into the portrait of the design of the created woman, and who she is and what she is and what she is called to be.
Right.
Yes.
And later on, we'll also be having Paul Ongare, who we do expect to be joining us. He is a counseling psychologist as well as an author, and he's written a book, Why You Marry Wrong. You can always call in live 0795 045 864. After credit as early as of now, utupigie simu and throw in all those questions that you have to marry or not. Then our question of the day this morning: does marriage in this day and age offer any unique benefits? On socials, on Facebook, TV47KE, a couple of comments. I'll be looking at them as we continue. But first off, I'll start, Rev. In this day and age, what's your opinion and outlook of how marriage is?
Marriage still remains to be the institution that our Creator God put in place for families. And there is no other choice, because God doesn't change his mind. Human beings change their minds and change their perspectives. But marriage still remains the minute unit of society, from where life happens and where creation happens, and from where we should nurture generations from one to the other.
Speaking of human beings changing their minds, Reverend, it's also important to mention that you're a doctor.
Yes, I am.
I really loved seeing that. I don't know. I feel as if nowadays, who stands to benefit, first of all? Is it the man or the woman? Because many might argue that the man benefits more. And additionally, we've seen couples that have been very successful, i.e. Oprah Winfrey and the partner, Stedman, who've been together for, a period spanning to 40 years. And they say that if they'd have been married, they don't think they'd be together, because marriage requires a different kind of commitment. You hear married people saying it is very difficult. How is marriage? It is work. It is hard work, but it is worth it. I don't say that about my friendships. I don't work hard in a marriage. So who stands to benefit?
I think that first of all, I would want to begin from a point of disagreement that success can be a standard measure for the benefits of marriage, because success is relative. And whatever we may quantify as success in one setting may be completely a failure in another setting. So it all depends on what we rate as success. Nonetheless, when you ask who stands to benefit, both man and woman benefit in marriage, because they have an output and an input into it. And that is how it is expected, that once two people get married, they begin to share life and they begin to complement each other, not to compete, not to pull apart, but to each build into that marriage. And they become, both of them, beneficiaries of the outcomes of that relationship. So really, we can't say that there is one gender that will be benefiting against the other. It is the mindset that one bears as you get into marriage that dictates whether you're going to be going into it simply for selfish individual, take out of it. You want to just be the one served within it. Both of them are servants within a relationship, and each has a responsibility to bear their tasks as required.
But then, so for the man and the woman, walk us through this. For the man getting into marriage, probably getting into 30, they're thinking, I've got someone and I want to get into marriage. How does the man think, when he's getting into marriage? What's he thinking compared to the woman? What's the comparison like for both man and woman who are getting into marriage?
The foundational question that actually ought to come forth is, why are you getting married in the first place? That must be the question. If you're getting into marriage to be the responsible man or woman in that relationship as required, then you need to ask yourself, do I have the take of preparedness, mentally, physically, and spiritually, for me to get into this institution? Because marriage is sacred, no matter what we think. Marriage is a sacred institution. It is not a make of any man or woman. It is the intended of by the Creator who gave us into being. And even the singles who say they are not married, they are not admiring marriage. The only reason they exist, first of all, upon the face of the earth is because some commitment was done by some people. So we must remove that selfish act of thinking life is about me, myself, and life. Because life is about service. And life is about giving. Life is not only about taking and being pleasurable and enjoying oneself. One, we are created in this world not to serve ourselves. We are actually vessels of service. We are channels of God's grace, and we are agents that He sends into the spaces where He puts us. So we have to always ask ourselves, is it just about being pleasurable and being comfortable and creating my own space? Even the people who give into celibacy or celibacy life, normally they don't do it to their own self.
Okay.
They do it in a congregation. They do it in a setting, because life is about service. Okay. Any time that I'm only thinking about myself is a questionable issue of the outcome of that life in the longevity of time.
Rev, I love that you've mentioned that you don't get into marriage for selfish reasons.
Yes.
But I understand that, in the past, the way people used to view marriage was an institution where the man would provide, the woman would take care of the house, house chores. Right now, we are both working. We are both providing, given how the economy is. So how do we change the rules? Do we change the role of a man from protection and a woman from nurturing?
We cannot change that. There is a distinct or distinctiveness of how God has created human beings. There is a distinctiveness, even though you work as a woman, and even though you work as a man. The truth of the matter is none of us can bear the distinct humanness that a woman carries and the distinct manliness that a man carries. I usually put a very comparative entry point like this. If you look at the creation story, Genesis chapter 1, God created male and female. And He gave them dominion to subdue His creation. So when you enter Genesis chapter 1, every male, every woman is in a competitive platform. We can go to the farthest we can ever go. We compete, we sit in the same university classes, We do exams and we get certification. Then we use those certificates to look for employment.
Equally.
And there, equally, it's around. It's equal partnership in Genesis chapter 1. But if you choose to get into Genesis chapter 2, where man was created first and given dominion to name God's creation. And then God looked at the man and said it is not good for the man to be alone. Then at that point, God himself, the creator of the universe and the creator of humanity, so it was not good for man to be alone, and declared himself, I will make a help meet for the woman. So any woman and any man who submits themselves to the institution of marriage, it is no longer equal partnership that is in Genesis chapter 1. It is orderly partnership.
From Genesis, let me take you to Proverbs 18:22.
Yes.
Umesoma Biblia?
I see.
He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains the favor of the Lord.
Yes.
Does this, when naturally, even the pastor, they read this for church, will this be meaning that maybe the Bible might be favoring, the man and being the upper hand of benefiting from marriage, saying, he who is going to be finding a wife will be finding a good thing. Does the Bible then...
What does the wife find?
There is another one which asks, a righteous man who can fight, or a man of integrity who can fight. Still in Proverbs. The key thing is, I don't lose the track of where I was at Genesis chapter 2. The man has already been given appraisement. And then God says, I will make a helper. So when God brings the helper, the man is amazed and says, wow, behold, she shall be called woman. It is the man who names the woman. And it goes further and says, the two were naked and they were not ashamed. In other words, there is a space that is created for oneness, openness, accountability between them. Now, when we bring in the fast that you have referred to, we are saying that the gift that was given to the man to help him is actually a favorable good thing. And that is a good entry point when the setting and the starting of the marriage foundation is beginning. The two need to be at that point, that they appreciate the wholesomeness, the just declaring to one another what a gift this is.
Right.
And then they begin from there by setting a platform of openness and complete oneness in furthering the discourse of the life that they have been called into.
Right. Rev and Kiri, allow me to now introduce our other guest, Paul Ongare. He's a counseling psychologist as well as an author. Why You Marry Wrong. I see you've carried the book.
Very much for having me here.
You're looking sharp, brother.
Thank you, sir.
And all of us.
Thank you.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
I see there's a whole touch of purple.
I see we had agreed on with Daktari on the touch.
Kama pia si tuliamuana the blue.
Blue. This is
You are still diffusing each other. That's why you are not desiring this institution that is so pressurable.
Can marriage work that way? Can marriage work
when you are pulling apart?
Yeah.
Of course not. Of course not.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself to us.
Yes, my name is Paul Wangari. Paul Wangari is a counseling psychologist, a passionate mentor to the young people, and also an author of 7 titles. And I'm so grateful in order to be here to discuss such a matter that is very critical and key, and especially in our society today. Because marriage is one of those institutions that God ordained, and also it's all of us, we need someone, all right? And therefore, when you're asking about do we marry or not, then it gets very exciting. And for me, it's more exciting because actually today I'm launching. I think in fact it's on this show, my new book.
How many pages is it?
Sorry?
How many pages is it?
It's 100 pages.
100 pages.
Yeah, so it's why you should, why you marry wrong. And that's something that it's exciting for me this morning.
I'm not seeing you wearing a wedding ring. Are you married?
Yes, I'm married. I'm allergic to rings.
Not to rings, but the method.
All right, I think we can talk about the foundation. We were basically just touching base.
Yes.
Yeah, and Reverend mentioned that, you know, he who finds, actually it's the Bible that says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing.
Yes.
And speaking of the foundation, I'd like to know, nowadays we have women approaching men.
Yes.
The Bible talks of he who finds. Are we just supposed to sit and be found?
Wow, that's exciting, eh?
Yeah.
Now, that's the woman of Kitambo, you know, who is supposed to wait and a man will come, all right? But I see nothing wrong, you know, if a lady, you know what you want, you know. So when you sit there and say that to be found, what if the person who finds is not what you want, you know? And therefore, I feel then it is okay for you to be able to know what you want and go for what you want, you know? It's important. It's
Reverend, do you share the same sentiments?
The issue is that I have spoken that in my first book, that if you want a Miss Right or a Mr. Right, you must be Miss Right or Mr. Right. So you must ask yourself, what qualities of the opposite gender am I looking for a marriage partner, for one to be united in this institution of marriage? Once you are aware of that, then you need to be found in the spaces where that kind of a person would be found. You need to be doing and at work over the same nature of work or in terms of presentation of yourself of the rights that you're looking at. I know my colleague says that it is the olden time that the women waited to be found. But if we read the Bible is also very explicit in different settings. For example, we have a classic example in Genesis 24, where we have the woman, Rebecca, going to the well. And she's going to fetch water. She's busy on her chores. And the servant of Abraham comes with his camels, who has made a prayer because he's on mission. But what does he find? He finds a lady who is also ready, and, as you know, alert and discerning, so that the setting becomes a setting of entry that results in a marriage eventually. And what does that mean? We cannot just have anybody sitting waiting to be found. You have to be busy. I say women should not stay like they're in a waiting room where we are waiting to see a dentist. And what happens? You sit and do nothing because you are nursing the pain that is, of course, coming from your tooth, or whatever other part of waiting room to go and see a doctor, or to visit a lawyer, and you wait in anxiety. You have to be busy on your chores, busy on your career and your profession.
Approaching.
Yes, no. The approach, that is already a setting. That is actually setting for the approach. You cannot be in the hiding and doing absolutely nothing. You should be busy on your chores. You shall be found there.
Okay. But then we had established that you'd find a helper and all that. So I'm curious, Wangari, when you talk about a helper, even the Bible really talks about this largely. Some would argue in this day and age that this helper you're talking about, I can find. I mean, the fact that there's technology. Back then, let's say when Dr. was, getting married, when was it, by the way?
Many years ago, 42 plus.
Oh, wow.
Okay. that time, there wasn't the technology that you'd find a dishwasher, that is right here, someone, something to clean the house. The fact that technology has brought that together that has definitely changed the dynamics of, even how, things are run even in the house. Some would argue right now that I'd probably be looking for a partner to help me, let's even the whole domestic chores, and even, well, among others. Do you agree with that?
First of all, I want to say it from the outset that marriage is a beautiful thing. Marriage is a very beautiful thing. However...
And now largely, because that's one thing that many people say.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing and it's harmful. So we would really want to understand
exactly.
What's the beauty in it.
I'm getting there. However, we need to understand that marriage is not for everyone. It is not for everyone. In my book, as I was in the first page, I have said that, and these are words by this gentleman by the name of Rick. He says very well, and allow me to quote this, because this is very important, because this is where we are going wrong. That people, because of the society expectation, I've talked about that things, that why people marry wrong. And these are the things that people, when they get into marriage, they find it's not working. And then they try to argue, what is it? Am I the problem? Or what is the problem? Is it my partner or is it me? However, they got married for the wrong reasons, And this gentleman, he says that marriage is not for everyone because some people are so self-involved. In other words, they are selfish. They are selfish in nature. And when someone is selfish, they cannot cope with anyone else because the world revolves around them. So this person cannot even raise children. This person can never have a heart for you, all right? Because their world revolves around them. And when someone comes into their circle, they feel they're suffocated. They feel they're squeezed. But that is because they are so jealous and they are so self-centered to a point whereby they cannot accommodate anyone. Now, if this person, therefore, society forces them to get married, for example, if age maybe is catching up with them, one of the things I've said in my book, age is catching up with someone. And because age is catching up, you think that then I need to get married, or the pressure from the society, maybe your in-laws want children, or your parents want children, and therefore you're forced to get into this relationship. When now you get to that relationship with this kind of a person, then the partner will suffer in that case. All right. So I go back to your question that someone wants someone to help them. All right. And you're saying very well that technology is there. The help you're talking about in the current generation is not kuosha nguo, kuosha nyumba, and all those domestic chores, because those people are there who can do that. Yeah. You can employ someone to do that. Right now, even in the US, what you're talking about, they have technology that even can do dishwashing. They can even cook and all that.
Even in Kenya.
Yeah, even here, exactly. So when you're talking of a helper, we need to look at it from a perspective of what is this person bringing on board. In terms of what? When someone is helping you, it could be is your vision. You have a big vision, and now you need someone to help you. There is this quote, normally people are saying that, behind every successful man, there is a woman. Oh, yes. What's the nature of that? If you go deeper into that, to understand that this man has a vision, and therefore this woman comes on board, and they're able to see in different perspectives. Because a woman is very gifted in intuition. They're able to see things that you cannot see. And no wonder you hear that they will always tell you, if you have a wife, they will always tell you that if something goes wrong, she'll come back and tell you, I warned you. I told you. But because men sometimes don't like to listen. Yes. But now when she always tell you, I warned you. So what?
Just a follow-up before you cross over to Naivasha.
Yes.
So as much as now we do have all this technology as an upper hand,
yes,
are there very unique benefits that someone getting into marriage will benefit compared to when, some years and very many years ago? Very, very unique benefits that they'd be getting, devoid of the whole technological advancements that are there right now.
Yes. I just mentioned one, all right? So how does a partner helps you? All right. One, I've said that it's a goal. You are working and your wife is working. Your resources are whatever amount. But when you have an extra hand, you're able to do much more rather than when you are alone. All right. So in terms of goal, in terms of vision, in terms of business, in terms of the future goals that you have for yourself, when you are two, you are better to do much more. All right. And of course, number two, which is very, very obvious.
Okay.
You know that, of course, conjugal rights, you know, it's very, very important, you know.
Some would argue you can get that out of marriage. But then, hold that thought there. Hold that thought. I want us to go to Naivasha. Our appointment there, Willie Dennis and Jerry, spoke to the residents there concerning this matter. Let's listen in.
Kwa majina ni Charles Kamau. My opinion, marry or not marry. Mi pangu nitasimama na not marry. Hii mambo venye inaenda saa hii, mambo mingi inapatikana nje. Sasa ndio mambo unapata inakuja hadi kwa BNB, unacheki. Hii mambo ni mingi sana. Sasa mi pangu tu nitasimamia na not marry.
Saizi kumali ni noma, afadhali kukaa single. This is because maisha imekuwa ngumu. Mtu anakukula na kona mtu mwingine nje ili kukaa single.
Nataka watu waoane kwa sababu tukataa kuoana hatutapata viongozi wa kesho na familia ya kesho. Tunataka watu waoane, wazae, kwa sababu wengi sisi tunaenda kuondoka kwa dunia. Tutawachia nani wakikataa kuoana?
Mimi ningesema watu waoane kabisa, hata kama utaweza kuwata 10 uoe angalau. Hao watu unajua ni wengi. At least tugawane. Tukikosa kuoa hawatapata wanaume.
Mimi nasema watu waoane. So kusiwe na mambo kama yenye yanatokea.
Kwangu mimi ningesema watu wasioane. Mashida iko mingi sana.
Ina depend. Lakini all in all, familia ni mzuri.
Ukipata opportunity ya kuolewa, olewa. Sipopata ni sawa.
Not to marry. Juu sahi kuolewa, maisha ni ngumu. Heri ukiwa single.
Naitwa Douglas Wawere. Kutoka Naivasha Kabati. Afadhali kuoa.
It is an optional anyway. Ukitaka unaweza oa, but in future itakuwa ni option. Itakuwa kama we stay ama itakuwa una marry forever. Itakuwa unapata watoto, kila mtu anakaa kivyake. Bora uko na watoto na yeye ako na watoto. Hivyo tu. Kwa sababu ni maisha inatupeleka vibaya. Alafu pia na tabia yenye sasa imeingia katika nchi yetu inazuia watu wengi kuwa na familia. I think marriage in future is out.
All right, those are the sentiments from Watu Naivasha. Hope you're taking notes. Also, we're asking you, does marriage in this day and age offer any unique benefits? Remember, you can always call in live 0795 045 864. I'll be sampling some of your feedback. Keshambe?
Yeah, I think we can go back to Rev. I'd like to know, Rev, do you believe that there is someone for everyone? Paul has told us that marriage is not for everyone. So do you believe there is someone? Do you believe in
a soulmate?
We call them soulmates.
Yes.
No, marriage is a choice. It is not demanded of people. And that is why some choose to be celibate. And I said earlier, when they choose to be celibate, they commit to a cause of service. And that's why you have with institutions, religious institutions, who have people who give themselves for celibate living. But it is for a cause. It is for a service. Because I said earlier, there is nowhere in life God intended somebody to live life for their own self. That is selfishness, where what my colleague has shared here with us. It is really being self-centered and so full of oneself that somebody just thinks, I came to life to live for myself. But we came to life, first of all, brought by others who sacrificed on our behalf. Once we have been brought to life, we have a calling to service. So yes, there may not be someone for everybody, because there are people who will feel that is not the institution I want to get into. And when we are marrying people, even on the material day of the wedding, there is always a question to the two. Just in case they might have changed their mind. Because it's better a broken engagement than a broken marriage. Once we get into the institution, we commit to a covenant that has demands and requirements of ministry to one another. Right. And that service of ministry to one another is freely given because a woman nurtures a womanhood. If you are a true woman, you nurture your womanhood through service. a man nurtures is manhood, if he's a true man, through service, provision, protection. That is the given of how God designed his creation. So when we write and talk at the same time, we are not talking simply for the sake of it. It is both from experience, but as well as from the runnings. For example, if I give a practical example, I do a lot of ministry among university students.
Okay.
I do a lot of ministry among churches and communities. There is a lot of pain for single mothers. As much as some are saying it's better to be single, or the single parenting, particularly in the nick of the need of the services where the child requires that other gender input, and that other gender input is not available. Then number two, when we get also to our latter years in life, what do you live for? Who takes care of you when you have not done that commitment and built your institution where care happens when you are strong and you are able to serve?
Sorry to cut you short, just a follow-up, because you say, so in the older age, who will be taking care of you? So will that be one reason that people would be married, for older age?
Not necessarily that, but that is, you end up there already in a set platform, rather than becoming a burden to society and a burden to other family members, where you refused yourself to take responsibility of a family, and you're expecting to be looked after by others when you should have committed yourself, and you wasted your life out enjoying life. It is so, like the question says, some say they can enjoy their conjugal rights in their relationships out there. So those conjugal rights were enjoyed there with people who some are husbands of others or wives of others, and now you never built an institution where you got to be responsible and to give the service. In the latter years, what happens?
Daktari, marriage is really sounding like work.
Are you convinced yet?
It is really sounding like work. I'm not liking the sound of it. But Paul, I'd like to know, what were you looking for? And what did you see in your wife for you to decide that I want to settle down?
And now, even as you answer that, so now, before, do you feel like there are benefits that you got even before? Right? If you're not married right now, do you feel like there are benefits that you'd be enjoying right now and saying, mi niko sawa venye niko?
In the marriage?
No, before marriage. Do you think that there are benefits that you will have enjoyed without marriage, even as your answer has?
Wow, that's interesting. What did I see in my wife for me to get married? Now, let me tell you this. And many marriages today are as a result of circumstance or situational. They are not intentional. And that's why many marriages are breaking. And that's why there is no sweetness in marriages. Because someone got married because of a certain issue or a situation. For example, Doctor has said, getting old. You know, that you think that because I will age alone and I'll be lonely, I need someone. You know, as I was doing collecting data for this book, one of the things I spoke to someone, it's full of stories actually. It's real deal. You know, 30 reasons that make people marry wrong. One of the man I interviewed he was saying that I married because I feared getting old alone. Again, so this what happened. The wife then accused him of cheating. And that was always what she was saying, that your money is being eaten by those people. You know, I won't mention the name. Those people, how the ladies say, those people. And the woman was always fuming about the case. So one point, this man goes out there, takes his boss to a different town, and they had to spend the night there. So when he comes the following day, the wife is fire, you know, and she's like, where were you? So the man just prepares himself and then retires to bed. Only the woman to come and actually threaten to stamp him. And so he just opened his eyes and the knife is right here on his face, you know, about to be stamped. So this man could have died what? Because he married because he wanted to, with the fear that I could age alone. However, it could have cost his death. Many people are married because of pregnancy. And someone will say, Mimi, in fact, I was not to marry you. You forced yourself into me because you got pregnant. In fact, that pregnancy, it's you who planned it. It was not my wish. You know, you knew what you are doing. So people are getting married because of situations. Because, you know, your parents are saying they want kids. because you're saying, like what you're saying, I need someone to help me in the house. Another Jama, actually, who I was talking to, he married because of that. The guy was very untidy. He was recycling his clothes. His house was untidy, with the fleas all over. And then he gets married because of that. And then now the wife comes, and the woman does wonders in the house. In fact, his friends are actually praising him. Hey, Buddha manze umechange. Hey, manze unakaa fiti, umekuwa sharp. Only the woman to ask for hair, for money to make her hair. And the guy is very arrogant, say that, you are very lazy, and I regret marrying you because you add no value to me. So when the man goes away for a job, after 2 days, comes back, the house is empty. The woman has cleared everything here. She took everything in that house, leaving only his clothes in a paper bag. What am I saying? That what did I see? So for me, I needed someone who could support my vision and my destiny, which is more important. For example, I'm a motivational speaker, counseling psychologist. I do a lot of mentorship in schools and in organizations. So as I do all this, I need someone who can be able to share my ideas. I present to her and tell her, but this is what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. What do you think? And her input is key. For another things, of course, because I also do, I have so many engagements. So she's there and she's also supporting me in other areas, So I go to your question. Someone said, I may not want to mention their name, that marriage is a prison. And therefore, the moment you go in it, there are things you have to sacrifice. So in a positive way, there are things that you have to go to say goodbye to. For example,
prison sacrifice, that does not sound positive at all. It is not encouraging.
Exactly. And that's why in my book I say that marriage should be intentional. You must know and have an idea. Why am I getting to this marriage? So let it be intentional, not because of circumstance, not because there's a need you feel that I'm so much squeezed that if I don't have this need or what people are saying, the pressure, all my friends are married except me. So I also feel I'm one left out. If you get married because of a situation, I'm telling you, that marriage will not last. But like what now Dr. Natatuambia, why did she get married in the first place? Was it circumstance or was it situational? The reason why it has lasted for over 40 years is because perhaps it was intentional. She knew that I'm ready for marriage, and this is what I want my marriage to look like. Someone shared in my book and said that they wanted a marriage to look like the way their parents was. Their parents were very good, only to realize that the woman or the mother was an authoritarian. He was the one in charge of the home, and therefore when now she got married, she thought that could also happen in his marriage. However, it didn't work. Why? Because the man felt that his authority is being questioned. So there are things that yes, I lack when I feel kandamizwa kidogo, in the marriage.
So basically, even before getting married,
yes,
one of the biggest benefits that someone who is single right now would say is the freedom. Would you agree?
That's just one. Partly, that is one. Freedom. What freedom are we talking about? For example, if I go home tonight and my wife is up in arms to ask me why you are late, and there's a very good saying in where I come from, a man is never late in his house. So whatever time you come, you should not be questioned. However,
how do you say that in your local language? I'm very curious. I'm pretty sure Gashami would be translating.
Mudhuri dashelagiro gwake. So what that means, why is your wife threatened by you coming late? For example, perhaps I was late. I went to let's say Kisumu, to do a talk, and then perhaps something happened and I get to my house at 2 a.m. Does she has the right to question and to be mad that I have come home late? Yet I was looking for food for us. Understand? So this freedom is what I need to know. For example, if, the freedom you're talking about is being with other ladies, that you can be with whoever you want. Now that freedom in a katwa immediately. Why? Because you need to be faithful in that marriage. Because the reason why you chose her is because you saw she has what anyone else out there didn't have. And that's why you chose her. So freedom here is very vague. So you need to understand what kind of freedom are we talking about? Because if it is getting late, if it is partying, You know, so right now you have responsibility. The moment you get married, and I always say, Dr. Tatuambia, marriage is not a bed of roses. So there are responsibilities that comes with marriage. You know, there are children who come in that marriage. You know, there are things that must be put in order in that marriage. Therefore, you cannot blow your money all every weekend as you used to do, you know, when she was not in. You cannot be with your friends then all the weekend, like another person who was saying that my husband leaves on Friday evening and will come back on Sunday morning. That's around 2 a.m. You know, because this is the lifestyle that he was used to. And when the guy asked, when the lady asked, why are you doing this? Akamwambia, before we got married, you knew how I used to operate. So you are okay with that, and that's why you... So there are things, surely, we need to sacrifice, or we need to let go, you know, of our previous life, that now in this institution, there are some things that must change.
We'll be getting into, you know, how much you can really sacrifice a little later on, but then I'm curious, because over the years, even in the Attorney General's office, right here even in Nairobi, the records of marriages have, you know, started to decline, Dr. The pursuit of freedom for many young people right now, the millennials, you know, people who are actually getting into 30 and approaching even 30 years old, will you say, or rather will you agree that freedom for them, is that an actual reason for not getting into the institution of marriage?
Of course, in their perspective, that could be the reason, some of them. But practically speaking, there is no life without boundaries and discipline, if it is integral life, or a life that you can see is a life of integrity, that has accountability. Because we all ought to operate under certain given authorities in life that we account to, whether single or married. The fact that one is single does not mean you are at liberty to do everything your passions dictate of you. As a running individual, one who has been schooled, we are taught to know there is time for everything. There is time to rest, there is time for work, there is time for recreation, there is time for entertainment, but there is time also to withdraw and be responsible. So if it is talking of freedom, which is irresponsible freedom, then definitely it's a vice. And many have fallen into that pitfall. They find themselves in that vice of just enjoying themselves and not being accountable to anyone, not being responsible for anything, and that is not beneficial because you have intentionally decided to use that word benefits. I don't know why that word benefit, but frankly speaking, that is not beneficial. If you are only being careless with your time, careless with your resources, careless with your human being, so that you throw yourself to if it's a woman, to every other man, because you want to be free. That is what one is calling freedom. Or to every other woman that you find on the street dressed in a skirt, then you are attracted to that because there's nobody saying
do not
you are held, because you are bound to a relationship of commitment. So that irresponsibility is not benefit as far as I am concerned.
Right.
Now, when you also refer to and allude to the fact that the numbers of registered marriages are declining, that does not mean people are not getting married.
Let me pause you there kindly, and let's go to Kangware. Gilbert Simiu, Kangware. Asante sana for calling us once again. Swali yako ni gani labda au maoni yako ni yepi in our conversation today?
Yes. I will be very brief.
Okay.
I will be very brief.
Okay, yeah.
Mke ni kitu cha dhamana sana. Mke ni kitu cha dhamana sana, kwa maana ndoa imetengenezwa na Mungu. Na tusikuje kuenda against the will of the Lord. Mume mwenye hana mke, hana heshima. Because ni kitu imetengenezwa na Mwenyezi Mungu. Bali kwa vyote pia watu wajue Unapomjua Mwenyezi Mungu na umuomba akupe mke, atakupa mke, lakini hutakaa hapa tumengoja mke. You have to look where you will get a good wife or a good husband. Kama msichana wangu mwenye ako hapo young lawyer, nitamuadvise hivi. Kuona mume na umpende na uone tabia zake zinakupendeza na umapproach, not a sin. Follow the right procedure. So long as umeona huyu mume ako sawa, tunaweza kuishi na yeye. Approach, there's so many ways to approach na umfikie na umwambie no, I want to marry you. It's not a sin so long as you follow the right procedure. Don't fear about that. Hapana. But also pia tumtangulize Mungu. Hata unapofanya hivyo, mtangulize Mungu. Ukiona Mungu kijana amekupendeza, anafanya kazi vizuri, anamuogopa Mungu, ana heshima, very hard working. Tafuta njia zote vile utamunasa muishi. Kwa maana mtaenda mbali, lakini watu wasema tu wasioe.
Simiyu, labda nikuulize kabla uende, unadhani kuna manufaa yoyote sahihi hii yenye 2024 yenye tuko sahihi, kuna manufaa yoyote yenye iko katika ndoa?
Manufaa iko mengi sana, manufaa iko mengi, hata nikianza kusema ni mengi sana. Because the Bible is very clear, imesema ampataye mke amepata kitu chema. So if the Bible says like that, wewe unataka kuniambia sasa hakuna manufaa? Mke iko manufaa mengi sana, hata yenye uwezi kusema. Watu wasikae bila kusema, bila wale mandugu wanaivaji wamesema ati watu wasioe. All things Bwana mwenyewe anajua. Hata ukioa sasa hivi vile maisha ni magumu, Bwana anajua vile mtakula. Bwana vile anajua mtapata watoto, mtawasomesha. Because ukiogopa ati maisha ni magumu, hata saa hii maisha ni magumu, lakini Bwana anatusaidia, at least we get something we put on the table. Yes, because we are preparing for eternity. So it is good to marry. Even the Bible says in the book of 1 Corinthians. So be careful pia. Unajua kukosa kuolewa pia, it will maybe cause you not to enter heaven. You will follow to the sexual sin and you will not enter. Have your husband, have your wife. Then like that, fear the Lord. The Lord will help you. Thank you very much.
Simiyu, before you go, tumekusikia, salimia wife. Ambia wife kitu.
Which wife?
Oh, you don't have a wife, Simiyu?
I have wife. My wife, I have my wife. I
yes,
love
yes.
her so
yes,
much.
Say hi to your wife, mwambie kitu mzuri yenye ajui.
No, I can say like this to my wife, Jane. That I love you so much because umekuwa msaada wa nguvu sana kwa maisha yangu. Na kuombea tu Bwana kupe maisha marefu. Because umechangia sana maisha yangu kubadilika. Umenipa familia. Na hata nikiangalia singeweza bila wewe. Bwana akulinde utokapo na uingiapo.
Amen.
Ukiwa pale kazini unasikia.
Amen.
Asante sana. Asante sana Simiyu. Salimia watu wa Kawangware. Geshambi,
do you feel encouraged?
do you feel like you're now ready for marriage?
How do you know you're ready for marriage, Reverend?
You know you are ready for marriage when you are ready.
How?
Psychologically, that your mindset is set that I am ready to settle down. Because marriage settles you down.
Is it before you get someone or before now you're actually pursuing, I'm looking for this person strictly for marriage?
I gave a very intentional classical example of Rebecca. Rebecca was ready for marriage, even by the manner in which she carried herself. You know, the dignity of her being, the way she carried herself to that river, the alertness of hearing the question of the messenger of Abraham, and the articulacy of quickly saying, yes, I will give you water. and I'll even water your camels. She's ready for service. She's ready to nurture. And then immediately after that, what does she even say? When the man says, where can I lodge? Said, in my house, in our house. So the environment, even at home, was ready for marriage for this daughter of theirs. So it is not like there is confusion. And even when Laban runs to come and meet Abraham's servant, what does he say? I have set the place ready. Which means even the brothers, the men in the homestead, are ready for this marriage. And that is how marriage sets in an ordinary environment. But these ones of come we stay, the one our motivator here said, they are incidentals. They are accidentals. People just found themselves in a prayer game, in those social gatherings. Pregnancy has happened. Now they have to take responsibility, and they have begin a marriage. There is no intentional commitment. That setting in the scripture tells us when there is intentional commitment of heart and mind, you are actually ready. And you are not only ready, you do all it takes. There is a question you asked earlier, can I approach? And the explanation has been given by Smiu. But I would also want to add, what I normally tell single ladies, if you sense there is somebody you would really want to get into a conversation with, some of the single ladies are in there, they're working, they have their own spaces. Can I make for you a cup of tea? There's nothing wrong.
They are killing us.
There is nothing wrong with your welcoming the gentleman or the and usually the ladies, I tell them, when you are beginning in an entry, don't single out. Include your buddies so that you can go for that coffee together, three of you.
That's very insightful.
Yes, include your buddies. Go for, because what you want is to hear the heart of this man, to watch his mannerism, to hear his perspective of life. So don't get to be singled out before time. Take time, but present a playground where there is space for conversation and good conversation. That becomes healthy.
But then now, so if now, fine, you know you're ready for marriage, but then that also means you know that you're ready for sacrifice.
Obviously.
And to sacrifice some bit of you, as you're saying, Ongare. So how, to what extent do you sacrifice what you love doing alone? Because, I mean, for a long period, you've stayed alone and you do things your own way, you do some, then now you're inviting someone else here. So that means you also have to sacrifice. Kama ni remote nilikuwa nimezoea hii masaa na watch game, itabidi nimwachie tu watch, soap yake vizuri and all other things. Among other things. So to what extent do you sacrifice? Na ni wapi unafika unasema hapana, I've sacrificed enough, wacha pia mimi nifanye vitu zangu.
Well, I think when you help Nyarengita with this, I can talk to HR and then I can invite him for a cup of coffee.
Succeed HR. So a cup of coffee after?
After HR.
I'm loving this. Last week you had a conversation on office. I'm seeing this. Anyway, so sacrifice. I always say that when you're bringing someone into your life, there is no competition. There should be compliment. So this person is not coming to you as a stranger, but as a friend. And it starts there, because the reason why right now you find that people are not compatible in marriages is because they feel the person they have brought on board, it's a different entity. Yet, mchungaji atatuambia when she become or he becomes on board, you become one, right? So when you are one, it means what? That you are set and ready to know that I have brought someone here who is a friend, who is my partner, who is like me, who is me. And therefore, I want to create a space for her or for him. So you cannot be the way you are. And that's why I started by saying there are people who are selfish in nature. that because I watched this program at this particular time, you should not touch my remote. In fact, I have seen couples coming to me for counseling. Na anasema kuwa mimi nikieka kitu yangu hivi, I don't want it to be turned like that. It must be like this. And, yes, and these are the perfectionists. You know, if you are perfectionist, then you bring someone who is not. And this is what we talk about in psychology of personalities. You know, a choleric marrying a sanguine. It becomes chaotic. Why? Because this person believes that their life should be in a certain manner. Yet this person is not like you. He or she is supposed to be you because they're supposed to be one. However, they have their different personality. So these sacrifices must be there. And you must be aware before you get into it. However, if you get into it and then you're not aware of this, there shall be conflicts. Right? And that's why you see marriages don't last. There's a marriage which I know you know, and we know. It lasted for only 6 months after people dating for years. You know? How? Because huyu mtu hataki kuambiwa. In the dating circle, you just meet for a short time, maybe a weekend or even an out, but the rest of the time, this person is independent. So there are things that they do when they come into the marriage, they feel they are suffocating. And that's why we need to be aware of that intentionality. Why am I getting married?
Let me to cut you short then. Yes. Let's go over to Homa Bay. Andrew, habari asubuhi, asante sana for calling us. Maoni yako ni yepi leo?
Habari yenu nyinyi nyote.
Salama sana.
Ningependa kuchangia mada yenye inazungumziwa katika televisheni yenu kulingana na mambo ya ndoa. Nilikuwa nataka nichangie kidogo sababu ninaelewa kuna changamoto kubwa sana katika ndoa. Sisi kama vijana wandogo.
Okay.
Nimeona there is a narrative yenye watu wamesema ati a marriage is a scam. Okay. But I just want to let people know that marriage was not our idea. Marriage was God's idea. This is an institution yenye ilikuwa established by God. It was ordained and it was blessed. Actually watu wameiangalia kwa mtazamo mwingine tofauti wakisema hakuna haja siku hizi watu waoe sababu ya jukumu, sababu ya mambo mengi katika ndoa. Na unajua vile tunaishi hapa duniani hakuna mahali hakuna shida. Kuna mambo mengi yenye imetuzingira sana. Of which we cannot say that hatuwezi tukaoa. Hiyo ni ile neno Mungu ile shetani ameweka katika ulimi yetu kusema ati ndoa is a scam. There is no any importance that we can get in marriages. And actually, Mark, you know that from our families, we are brought up from those families. For example, mtu atakienda mahali akisema anaenda nyumbani wapi?
Either kwa baba au mama.
Yeah, you must have come from somewhere.
Labda nikuulize Andrew, labda nikuulize uko katika ndoa sahi?
Niko katika ndoa.
How many years?
I'm 33 years old now.
How long have you been married?
10 years.
10 years. Sahi unadhani kuna manufaa yote yenye ungepata kama ungekuwa umeolewa au umeoa na sahi ukilinganisha?
Sorry?
Nauliza kuna manufaa yote unadhani ungepata kama ungekuwa katika ndoa na ungepata sahi wenye wakati uko kwa ndoa?
Those are regrets. Unajua marriage is a decision. Ukiamua kuingilia katika ndoa lazima ukubaliane na mambo yote, changamoto yote yenye tunapata katika ndoa. Na moso katika ndoa mambo yote tunafaa tuweke mbele ya Mungu sababu Mungu ndiye anapeana mwanamke mzuri. Na ndio manake hata katika Biblia kuachana, divorce is not allowed. And the Bible at time kuna mahali imestate ni ile tu kuna sheria za Musa zenye zilikuwa zimewekwa, ndio manake watu walikuwa nasema ati ukikuta bibi yako hivi mnafaa muachane, lakini in the beginning that was not God's idea ati watu wakioana watu wanafaa waachane. It is not there.
All right.
So it is something holy. It is God's idea. And tukiamua kuingia ndani ya ndoa, tuingie tuweke kila kitu katika mbele ya Mungu, and actually it will really go through.
Have you ever regretted being married, Andrew?
Sorry?
Even for a second. Have you ever regretted getting married?
I don't want to find myself in that situation to regret. Because you need to get prepared ukiingia katika ndoa. Kuna mambo mengi watu wanasema lazima tujiandae katika tukitaka kuingia katika ndoa. Kuna mambo mengi watu wanasema ati acha tujiandae tufanye hivi na hivi. I'm telling you at times kuna ndoa zingine unajikuta papo hapo. God has a reason why each and everything is happening into your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Asante sana Andrew kutoka Homa Bay huko. Nasalimia watu wa huko. Remember, you can also call in live 0795-045-864. We've had listened to two gentlemen as of now. I'm curious, ladies, maoni yenu ni yepi? I really want to hear from the ladies. Gashambi, what are people saying on the socials?
I am trying to get that.
So even as you get that on Facebook, TV47 Kenya, Mwalimu Katebes Kibet says there's little excitement in marriages these days. Most couples get into them with lots of expectations. They end up frustrated as a result. The end game is cheating, disrespect, and loss of trust. A lady here, which marriage? People stopped marrying. Tafuta ingine. Manu says from Kimogoro, no unique benefits in marriage nowadays. And finally, Charity Mutahi says it depends. Kuna umepata Gashambe?
I'm just seeing guys saying no. There are a lot of no's from guys.
no unique.
I don't know what's happening nowadays.
Remember the question of the day, does marriage in this day and age offer any unique benefit? So before the caller, Ongaro, you're giving us when the sacrifice. How far can you go when it comes to matter sacrifice? And I'm curious, Daktari, your take on that.
I think basically what it entails is that you cannot say how much sacrifice you make at the entry, or what type of sacrifice you make at the entry, because life is a journey. First, you're two different individuals who get married, male and female. You are deemed to be different even in your operations once you get to that institution. But you create your pattern. You create your pattern, the two of you, because you are friends.
So do you do this before marriage or after? And if it's after, how long? Is it the first year of getting married and tukae chini na Gashambi juu ni kama wamesema tukae chini and say so fine, we've got married yesterday, so we sit down and say, so you like doing this, I like doing this, so this is what we create that pattern. Do you do that?
No, it is a bit before and a lot after. The patterns are formed because life is a journey. And the unfoldings are going to be quite different as you get into the life sharing. For example, here are my 4 books. These 4 books are written by myself. This is work. It is time. It is finances. There has to be created space within the family environment. You have earned my titles. Those titles come with an assignment and responsibility. So there are adjustments that happen in the course of sharing life together with somebody you love and somebody you have intentionally committed yourself to. So there will be a give and take, and I used those ones right from the beginning. There will be a give and take along the way because you are friends, not for oppression, but for purposes of complementing one another and growing yourselves in that institution. And there is a lot of open space for growth. There will be definitely some areas where you cannot see the same way because you're different. And that is why my book, one of my books, is Resolving Marital Conflicts. conflicts are inevitable. They are a must. They will automatically happen. Anybody who says in their marital relationship they don't conflict is a lie. Because it's a man and a woman. We don't see things the same way.
Yeah.
But how do you resolve the differences when they arise?
And Dr. as we're talking about resolving conflicts, how do you identify your non-negotiables? Because, for example, maybe I've never seen my dad shout at my mom. I cannot imagine shouting at me. I don't know. How do you know? How do you identify your non-negotiables before even getting married?
A situation that men cause a shout is one that you cannot anticipate. But we are talking of two friends who have committed to share life. And they're in that process of sharing life. So you cannot lay perimeters and get a journal and put into writing these things you will not touch. Because you might even be the one who will shout. Because a table is on your foot. Not necessarily that somebody lifted it there intentionally on you. And you will scream like you've never screamed before. So you cannot anticipate actuals. But the perimeters of orderly operation is what you speak into. And a commitment to respect and honoring one another. And a commitment to taking your distinct role. Because each of us has a distinct role. For example, a wife will be supported by the husband, who both of them are working, when you are expectant. But the truth of the matter is, he will never carry the pregnancy. You will have to carry it, my daughter, whether you like it or not. No matter the fact that you're both career persons earning salaries, you will have to carry the pregnancy. For you to be pregnant, he has to give you the seed. You cannot get it from yourself. Those are distincts of ourselves. And those are distincts that must be respected and appreciated. Even as we speak about not understanding what are the gains, and for the betterment of his comfort, the use of the word benefits, there are things you don't have as a person. You can only receive them with the service of that shared union. And those are the appreciation perimeters that we have to bear as we get into the institution. Knowing that this is in the heart of God, it's in the mind of God. Literally, the increases, the expansions, the growth that comes within marriage is not debatable. And, it's massive.
And even as you chime in on that, so basically Koth on Facebook says, instead of investing in today's marriage, just look at anything else to invest in and thank me later. And this largely speaks on the perception of marriage. And I think last week, or the week before, I think it was last week, there's a whole conversation on X. I think it was trending for like 2 consecutive days, marriage. So this was after Pascal Tokodi, as well as the wife, Grace, split up. And there was a whole conversation, and people brought up other, couples who had split up as well, and people putting on the table and saying, well, these ones have been married for 10 years, 5 years, and then they've split up. So mbona niingie kwa marriage? Whatever they were gaining in the marriage, I can get, even outwards. Speaks on the whole perception. Should we now as a society stop focusing on some of these negative perceptions? Because at the end of the day, even in the weekend, utasikia fulani waliachana, and people start asking questions. Mbona sasa tuingie kwa doa basi? What's your take on that?
Thank you very much. I'm a bit concerned by the rate at which young people don't want to get married. And I respect that. Because Bishop is ni wa kanisa. Reverend. So kwa hivyo yeye lazima ongea mambo ya kanisa, Mungu vile anasema. However, we have so many other people who are not Christians, who don't subscribe to any religion, However, the rate at which young people don't want to get married is concerning. Right? And I ask myself then, how comes they don't want to get to this marriage?
I'll have to pause you again there. Let's pick this call from Dennis kutoka Eldoret. Deno, habari asubuhi, and asante sana for calling us this morning. Habari Eldoret, and also what's your opinion on our conversation today?
Alright, nashukuru sana naitwa Dennis Kiprop, napiga live kutoka Eldoret. First of all, ningependa kushukuru sana kwa hii mada ya leo, manake ni mada ambayo inahusiana na masuala ambayo tunakumbana nayo sana sana siku hizi. First of all, I'm only 25 years and I'm looking forward to getting married. So on the topic to marry or not to marry, I say we must marry, or one must marry. According to me, the things which are making people today not to say that they are not getting married.
Okay.
One, cha kwanza, wanipata?
Nakupata, endelea.
Ni kwamba unapata kwamba vijana siku hizi wanajiingiza katika mahusiano ya mapenzi wakiwa wachanga zaidi. Kitu ambayo inafanya vijana wanamaliza ile hamu wakiwa wangali wadogo zaidi. Unapata kwamba siku hizi hata watoto wenye wako umri wa miaka 10 washajua mapenzi, washaanza kujamiana. Sasa kitu hicho kinafanya watu hao kitambo mtu afike tuseme umri wa kupata kuoleka, inakuwa amemaliza hamu yote. Akiingia pale wanaanza kuonana tu ni kana kwamba ni kama ndugu na dada, na kuna ile hali ya wale ambao wanandoa wakuwa pamoja inakuwa wafanye, inakuja inakuwa ngumu zaidi kwao kutekeleza. So baadaye unapata kwamba marriage inakuwa shida, mambo haikui sawa, na it will not last long. So usia wangu kwa vijana ambao they are looking forward to getting married ni kwamba waache haya mambo ya kufanya wakiwa wadogo. Nimechangiwa sana na wazazi wameachilia watoto wao pia. Hawataki kuongelesha, hawataki kuambia, inakuwa ngumu zaidi. Ni hayo tu ambayo nayo kwa siku ya leo.
My dear, unataka kuoa ukiwa na miaka mingapi?
I'm 25 na I'm planning in 3 years time.
In 3 years time?
In 3 years, I'm 28. Majalio.
Unadhani ni nini ambacho what benefits, you know, will you have when you get married that you don't have right now?
Okay, right now looking forward to having something which will make me somehow stable, so that when I get that girl that I'll get married to, I got something kidogo ya present, so that to make sure that when I'm into this marriage, there is something. You know, as a man, you know, we believe that as a man, you must be the head of the family. And as the head of the family, even if the one that you get married to has got something, as a man, you must stand.
They know labda nikuulize, because it's about 13 days to Valentine's, and you're saying, you know, in 3 years time utakuwa unaingia katika ndoa. Uko na mtu sahihi ama in the next season utaanza kutafuta for the next 3 years, unatafuta ule mmoja mwenye utasema I'm settling with this one?
Okay, right now, yes, there is someone that I'm dating, someone that I'm looking into, but she's far away somehow. So, yeah.
Asante sana Dennis kutoka Eldoret. Salimia watu Eldoret huko Gashambi, unasikia? And the next 3 years, maybe.
I'm stupid. Paul, did you have a deadline? Did you know I want to get married by this age?
Let me first finish what I was talking about, the concern that so many young people are not getting married. And I respect that. When someone says, I don't want to get married, I respect it. When someone says, I want to get married, that time is a choice. You know, you make a choice. However, what is it that is making young people to shy away from marriages? Right? One, I would say, is does it mean there are no good marriages that are there that people can emulate? Or is it the media and the society has amplified the negativity in the marriages, and that's why young people are scared of getting married? Number two, when someone says you don't want to get married, what reason are you giving? Are you looking at the external factors? And that's what you're saying, me, I don't want to get married because the celebrities, they got separated. That one, they had married for 10 years, they got separated. Are you being influenced by the external factors? Or is it an in thing that I'm not getting married because of 1, 2, 3? No, so many people today, have no good examples of marriages, right? And that's why they don't see the benefit. You know, what you're getting inside, which you cannot get from outside.
Because even as right now, there's so many single families.
Thank you.
Someone has been raised in by a single mom or single dad. They're like.
Exactly. And then now you're able to understand what I was getting there, that many people have not grown up looking at or seeing a marriage that works. Right? Some saw their mothers being abused, battered by their fathers. Others saw their fathers being mistreated by their dads. Others, like myself, I'm Paul Wangari, born by a single mom. You know, unfortunately, she passed on. I was only 9 years old, so I have not been able to grow up with her. However, does the fact that I never saw a father and mother being together, that will make me now have no idea that a marriage can work? And that's what I'm saying, that marriage must be intentional. It is about me, not about we, not about the society, not what about other people will think about me, but it's about me. Am I okay? Am I comfortable? Am I ready for this? If you're not ready, don't get married. I know of someone who got married at the age of 54, you know. So you could ask, at 54 years, he was single. What was he looking at? Is it that he never saw anyone suitable for him? No, he was not ready. All right? And therefore, the moment he got ready, he was 54. And what does history tell us? He got married, he had 3 kids, he had grandchildren, he died at 101 years old. All right? So let people not be pressured into getting married. Right?
Unfortunately, Paul, for women, biologically, we do not have that luxury of waiting to get ready at 54.
Exactly. So then, if then you don't have the luxury, will you get yourself into a marriage because of that pressure? That you are running out of time, that people expect this from you, and then when you get there, you find that there is a lot of suffering in that marriage. That reasons why you should not get married in my book. And in fact, if you read this book from a point of just reading, you might not get married. Right? Because the stories I've shared in this book are negative betrayal after betrayal after betrayal. Why you should not get married. Understand? So it's all about betrayal. So and that's why I'm encouraging in this book people to get married, but be aware that in that marriage there will come moments where things will not work. You will not agree. And Dr. Amesema, there are conflicts, and that is inevitable.
So to answer her question, what age did you start preparing?
Oh, wow. I waited. And of course, that doesn't mean that I have not made attempts or errors in the past, you know. But however, as much as, and that's what I'm saying, people get married because they have no idea. They have no idea. Someone felt lonely. Someone felt that the body is demanding. And someone came for a sleepover. They came to one weekend. It extended to a week. It extended to a month. And then we are married, you know. And so this person was not prepared. You know, so for me, I don't want to say my age, but 3 years ago is when I felt, you know, that I was ready to settle down. And 3 years ago, I was past 30. Understand? I was past 30. So this pressure that people are having to get married, only to get into that marriage, then kinawaramba, then that shall be discouraged. That let someone get married because they are set. Be aware, and I would encourage anyone to get this book. If your reason is there. If your reason is there why I think I should get married, then please don't get married. Wait until you have that reason why you feel you are ready to get married.
It's 9:36, time is really flying, and I'm pretty sure Danzakombi, you're really out of time. So the 2 issues that, one, he brought up on living and growing up from where there's no marriage around you to emulate. Either, first of all, the parents, which is the basic institution, looking at how your parents relate, and you're like, but pia mimi nikiwa mkubwa nikiingia kwenye marriage, I'd like to be in such, like, or even your uncles. That is number one. Also, he talks about the 30. So normally, when many are growing up, even the whole millennials, saying for their to-do list, getting married before 30. So hata ukifika past 30, you're like, I have not achieved what I really wanted to. And I'd really like to tackle those two before tuanze kumalizia. First off, is there a huge effect when it comes to growing up in a single, parent kind of family? Is there a very huge effect now later in life when someone decides to get married?
Yes, depending on the nurturing that happens even with a single parent. What the single parent speaks into the life of the children or the child. There are instances where the particularly single moms, were betrayed. Of course, there was somebody who was responsible for the pregnancy. They did not take responsibility, or they were abandoned, or the man has become completely irresponsible, and they found that they had to run this task alone. If the parent is very bitter, hasn't dealt with it herself, and is constantly talking about negativity about men, that could negatively impact on the children. And they find that they're no longer desiring marriage because of what they have gone through. And other times, it could be simply what is presented around their peer mates and the experience that they're interacting with. So what I normally tell personally single parents is, yes, you may have gone through disadvantages and challenges and difficulties because of the situation you found yourself in as you brought up this child or these children. But what are your desires for your child? So as a parent has to speak truth to their child without lying, and bless their children and release them for their own virgin ground to set their base. And that is very important, so that a cycle is not repeated of single parents from one household to the other household all over the ages. Because what that individual does and deals with that circumstance is important. Now, from my perspective, I have come from an environment where I would say I am blessed from generations of responsible parenthood. Right from my grandparents, who were believers and who were very committed in their marriage relationship. I remember doing an interview with my late paternal grandmother, asking her, does marriage work? That was my question to her. She was 104.
Wow.
Daktari,
Yes.
let's
And then
pause
the-
there. Patrick from Thika is on the line.
Okay.
Let's hear from Patrick. Habari, Patrick? Hello.
Habari yako?
Mzuri sana, Patrick. How you doing?
Good.
Tuongeleshe, tuko hapa na mwenzangu Nyaringita na daktari na psychologist on site.
Nashukuru sana sababu ya mada. Ni mada ambayo hakika imeleta changamoto katika maisha ya tunayoishi katika huu. Mimi ningependa kusema hivi sababu marriage venye wasemi wengi wamesema marriage was ordained by God. And actually one of the caller akasema whoever gets a woman gets a good thing.
Yeah.
Lakini wakati unasoma kwenda hapo mbele kuna venye inasema kwamba when you get married you get a blessing from God. This a given favor ambayo inapatikana kutoka kwa Mungu. So which means mimi ningeuliza leo mambo ya to marry or not to marry. Mimi ningesema kumari kwa sababu we are under God's favor. Tukimari tunapata favor from God. But one thing that I've come to kuona ambayo imesababisha marriage mingi asiwork, it is because of we don't fear God. Because bottom line hii maisha yote ambayo tunaishi mara watu wanasema marriage is optional ama something, lakini God made marriage it work. God made everything into perfection. So ile wakati ambapo tutakuwa tunamwogopa Mungu, tutaona kila kitu iko sawa, ni kawaida, maisha tu ni kawaida. Kwa sababu currently there are so many things. Kuna human rights ambao wanasema kila mtu akona rights zake. You can, for example, sasa mfano kama siku hizi there are so many influence of the internet. People have gone through there. Watu wanasema my dress, my choice. Watu wamesema vitu mingi kwa internet. Because of the influence of the internet, people follow what the Bible tells us. Bwanaume katika familia ndio kichwa.
Labda nikuulize,
Yes.
Unadhani kuna manufaa ungepata, sijui kama uko kwa ndoa sahihi, kuna manufaa ungepata ukiwa kabla uolewe, kabla uoe na yenye unapata sahihi?
Yes, mimi naweza kulingana, mimi naweza sema kwamba kuna manufaa kwa sababu kuna zile vitu ambazo ningefanya wakati niko peke yangu. Lakini sasa hivi nikiwa katika ndoa, hata kama kuna changamoto hapa na pale, unapata kwamba kuna kule kushare ideas. Vile mmoja huyo counselor amesema hapa, hata wakati unaongea na mtu, wakati mwingine hata wazungu wanasema two words are better than one. Hata kama wewe, hata kama mimi ndio kichwa ya nyumba, kuna some other things I may need to hear from my partner. Yes.
Asante sana asante sana.
Nimeshukuru sana kwa mada.
Asante sana kwa kutupigia salimia watu wa Thika. And you know, you continue to tell us, even talking to your grandma.
Yes, and she was very emphatic.
At 104 years.
At 104, because she actually never got to be looked after. Maybe for a few days before she passed on. She was in charge of her life, and her mind was intact. That she's grateful to God for the blessings of her marriage with 11 children. And then come down to my own parents. I saw marriage work. They got married in a Christian marriage in the very onset of beginning of their life. And then we have gotten married. And now our 4 children are married. So when this statement of the millennials are saying, we must not generalize it, because which millennials is a percentage.
Will you say chances of someone being brought up in a single setup, chances of them having sort of a broken kind of marriage, or their marriage not really working?
Not necessarily.
Higher?
Not necessarily. That's what I'm saying. There has to be a cutting off from the mindset of the fact that marriage doesn't work, or there has to be betrayal, there has to be frustration. And I like what our immediate Cora has said. When you fear God, you submit yourself to the lordship of God. Because even when the man is the head of the family, his authority does not come from himself. His authority comes from God. It is God who has positioned the male man to be the head of the family. If men feared God, and we have a challenge with men folk, that's why I've written, repositioning the male man. We have a challenge with the male folk, the male man who has been given a very distinct position by God to lead and be the priests of their families, the prophets of their families. But what happens? Many of them are absent, they are silent, or they are irresponsible. They abandon that assignment. The minute that assignment is not undertaken or is rope-sided, something else comes in. Because nature does not operate in a vacuum. Something else comes in. Sometimes it's the usurpation of power by the women, and the women will begin off showing the society it is okay that you let us alone. I have the capacity, I've gone to school, so I can do this thing on my own, but it is still disjointed. It is not within the model God set. And we have to reach a point where we get back to the model that God set. Because the model that God sets is the mind of God, is the heart of God. And that is where we receive our blessings. So that the seed bearer, who is the man, carries his divine mandate of taking their position unequivocally, without tilting from that position. And it is not position where you control under your human, selfish ambitions, but under humility, because you are under the authority of your Maker. When you are under the authority of your Maker, you are a reader, you are a servant. You love like Christ loves the church. That is the joy I have in my 42 years myself.
You're asking which millennials. Let me read some of the feedback.
I know they are there. I'm not saying they are not there.
Yeah. Let me read the feedback quick first. Yeah. So Mwalimu Kibet says there's little excitement in marriages these days. Most couples get into them with lots of expectations. We'll talk about expectations. They end up being frustrated as a result. The end game is cheating, disrespect, and loss of trust. Kenyan women in politics say, yes, men will forever invest where there is value. Judy says, which marriage? People stopped marrying. Wamboi Mwangi is saying, kuna siku imewahi kuwa na benefits. She laughs. Manu, is it our director, says, Nairobi City, no unique benefits in marriage nowadays. Yeah, I'm seeing Charity, Joshua, Chris, and Kennedy. Everyone apart from Kennedy, they're all against marriages. So I'd say we talk about what? I've forgotten.
Expectations.
Expectations. Should we have expectations going into marriages? Because I know people change a lot. People don't remain the same. I believe you are not a doctor and you're getting married.
Yes, I wasn't.
Now you are.
Yes.
People change a lot. How do you manage? Should we go into with expectations? And how do you manage these expectations in a marriage?
Yeah, very good. We shall be dishonest to ourselves to say that people don't have expectations, right? Only unrealistic expectations cannot be met in a marriage, and that brings about frustration. Now, we need to understand this, that when a marriage does not work, it does not just affect the two of you. You know, if there are kids in that family, they shall be affected. And as they grow up, and that's why so many people are like that who are against marriages, when they grow up, they tend to adapt the same cycle. Because of what they saw, now they say, I cannot find myself in that. So what expectations do you have? You know, so you can have expectation that like the dream of everyone, a good man who respects me, who loves me, who honors me, who provides for me, a woman who is caring, who is God-fearing, who is a homemaker, yes, a career woman who can bring something on the table. So these expectations are there. However, we are not gods. As per se, we are not God. What do I mean? That things cannot work in a systematic way all the time.
That's your view. Let's listen to Chris's view. Kutoka Thika, still in Thika. Chris, asante sana for calling us this morning. What is your view on our conversation this morning? To marry or not? Uko wapi?
Okay. I'm Chris Ambule from Thika.
Okay.
And I would like to contribute to the discussion.
Okay.
Na kuna vile nimesikia our friend there akisema kuwa there's a problem with the wale children wenye wamekuwa raised with the single mothers. Na actually I'd like to say there's a very big problem. There's a very big problem, and there's a difference between wale wenye wamelelewa na single mothers na wenye wamelelewa na full parents.
What's the difference?
Okay, the reason is hawa wenye wamelelewa na single mothers ama full family, the character zenye wako nazo wakikomaa wakiingia kwa ndoa ni tofauti na wale wenye wamelelewa na single mothers ama single father. Because you see, when a kid see what is happening in the house,
okay,
na utapata huyu mtoto mwenye amelelewa na single mother, character yenye amelelewa nayo ni tofauti na yule mwenye amelelewa na full parents, because our full parents wanataka kuonyeshana a good example for the future of their kids. But kwa huyu naye hatapata ile full coverage of love of full parents. So atalelewa akiwa na ile hatred ya kusema wanaume ni wabaya ama wanawake ni wabaya.
Chris.
Yeah.
Afadhali uoe mwanamke ambaye amelelewa na single mother ama mwanamke ambaye amelelewa na wazazi wote wawili lakini ambao walikuwa wanatusiana, wanapigana, a very toxic environment.
Okay, there's a difference, and I will answer you that. Actually, when you see with a kid mwenye amelelewa na single mother, hapewi actually full responsibilities. Na ukipata mwenye amelelewa na full parents, anapewa actually respect and full responsibility. Because mtoto ataishi kuwa akisema, nataka kukaa vile babangu na mamangu walifanya nini?
Hata kama walikuwa wanapigana.
Hapana. Because a full marriage of mature, hakuna venye utaanza kupiga mke wako mbele ya watoto. It is an offense actually. Na utapata mtoto mwenye amelelewa na single mother, chenye ilifanya akawacha maybe mzee, hiyo hatred bado ataiweka kwa mtoto akisema fear men because wako na ABCD. Hivi tu tumeziona kwa media all over. Na utapata huyo mtoto hata ikifika time ya kuoa ama kuoleka anakuwa na ile a very big problem, because ni mtu mwenye hutamadvise ati kuna wasichana wazuri ama kuna wanaume wazuri. Uweze muadvise, atakuwa akisema wote ni wabaya, because wa baba niliona akitesa mama mpaka tuliishi hivyo. Lakini sasa ukiangalia kwa ule mtoto mwenye amelelewa na full parents in respect, atasema I want a beautiful marriage like mom and dad. That's why utapata huyo mtoto lazima atakuitisha, nataka nijue baba, lakini mama because of that hatred anasema achana na huyo ni mbaya. So there's a very big challenges here. Compared to that.
Asante sana Chris kutoka Thika. Salimia watu wa Thika, and thank you for watching us this morning. We have about like very few minutes, like even 2 minutes to actually wrap it up. And because of time, I think I'll ask each of you to give us a parting shot, an advice to kama ule kutoka Eldoret alisema he's 25, he's looking for in the next 3 years. Lazima akuwe ameoa, lazima afanye harusi kubwa sana. An advice to young people out here, wenye walieka to-do list yao kasema before 30 lazima niwe, lakini maybe hata ashapita hiyo 30 and they are wondering,
am I the problem?
Ni soulmate hakuna ama ni nini? I'll start with you, Daktari.
Thank you. To all the listeners, I would want to say that marriage is not a supermarket business where you get ready with your wallet, the money is there, and so you just go and take a few supermarkets for the item you want and settle on the one you want. It is a process. It's a journey. And that journey requires the individual self to prepare themselves mentally, spiritually and physically, and be the master or the misright of the master and misright we are looking for. So that we should not be anticipating to get married to a person of particular qualities, but when we introspect ourselves or others inspect or tour our lives are wanting. Because if we are doing try and error outside there, life is not about try and error. And I would encourage our children, the millennials, please don't play around with your personal life, particularly in this game of having sex with everybody across borders. Saying you are satisfied and there is no need for marriage. Your life is sacred. Your life needs to be taken care of, and you shall be held accountable for it.
Asante sana.
Eventually.
Asante sana. Yes. This Saturday you launch...
I wrote my book on this Saturday, Repositioning the Male Man at All Saints Cathedral from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. You're most welcome. We are speaking to the praise of the boy child.
For those who can't make it, where can we find your books?
We'll be able to get the book at Scripture Union, bookshops, and Ufungamano. Thank you.
Ongari, final thoughts?
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for this healthy discussion. There's so much you could talk about marriages, but we can't exhaust everything here. However, I would want just to ask, is marriage a scam? Can it work? I want to say this, and with a lot of confidence, that marriage works. However, don't get into a marriage when you're not ready, when you're not intentional about it. Number two, marriage is not your solution to your problem. When you go to a marriage because kwenu kuna shida, unataka a safe haven, things will go bad. Exactly. So when your expectations must be tamed if you want to survive in a marriage. Remember this, that a marriage does not only affect you as couples, but it will affect your children and their children and generation to come. So be very mindful when you're getting into a marriage. Don't concentrate on those marriages that have not worked. Those are them, but you can be different. So you can also get into a marriage and enjoy that marriage. However, be intentional about it.
Asante sana, Reverend Canon Dr. Rosemary Mbogo, counselor as well as an author, Resolving Marital Conflicts. That book is, or rather that book is actually out. And Paul Wangare, counseling psychologist, an author, ameshikilia kitabu Why You Marry Wrong. There's something, briefly even as we wrap it up, there's something that she had mentioned, getting into a supermarket brings up the whole conversation here, financial, how much financial muscle can you really, should you have ukiingia? Food for thought. We'll be getting into that conversation later on. Asante sana for everyone who actually called in. I was hoping for a lady to call in and tuambie kwanza a single lady. Tuambie maoni yake. Asante sana Gashambi Dirito also, as well as thank you very much. And to the entire crew, kina Saimo, kina Charles, director Inonda pale, super producer Lydia, kwa graphics Jen, digital pale, wangu